Getting out of debt is hard. Staying out of debt is on a whole nother level. And that's why I want to share with you 5 things that I did after I became debt free that's changed my life and changed the legacy for my family. I know a lot of folks on this channel is in the grind, working their way out of debt. And I'm right here. I'm cheering for you. I'm putting out content to help you every step of the way. And in this video, I specifically want to talk about life after debt. What's up, my people, and welcome to the channel. My name is Diamond, and if you haven't done so already, be sure to click the subscribe button so that you can become part of the community. If you've seen some of my other videos, you know that we've paid off over $100,000 worth of debt in just under 3 years. It was hard. We had to make some very tough choices and a lot of sacrifices to make that happen. But now we're on the other side of it, and it was the best thing we could have done for our financial future. Now, like other videos, I don't want to give out some theory. I want to talk about specifically things that I did. I'm going to share with you those 5 things that I did after I became debt free. The first thing we did after getting out of debt was build an emergency fund. Because even though we were debt free, we still felt vulnerable because we didn't have a pile of money sitting over to the side while we were getting out of debt. So we only had a few $1,000s sitting there in the bank. So we took all that money that we were spending towards debt payments every single month, redirected that money into savings, and it took 3 months, but we were able to save up 6 months worth of expenses, which to us was a safe number. It made us feel comfortable, allowed us to sleep good at night, because what we didn't want to do was to get out of debt only to go right back in. This was it. A line was drawn in the sand, and we decided that we were no longer going to play the debt game and go in and out of debt because we had paid credit cards down only to see them charged back up to pay them down again, and we were done. So we wanted to have that line, we wanted to have that protection in place to keep us from using credit cards or having to go into debt for anything. Because a lot of people think that, debt comes from overspending and overindulging yourself. But as a person who spent a lot of my life in debt, I know that it could come from overspending or overindulging, but it also could come from a medical emergency or a family emergency or any host of things that come up that you just don't have the money to pay for. So you have to put it on some type of payment plan in order to handle whatever is right in front of you. But this was it. The emergency fund was put in place so that we didn't have to play that game no more. And it's been a few years now, and I can tell you, as unfair as this may sound, now that we're out of debt and we have an emergency fund, I don't experience nearly as many emergencies as I did when I was broke and living paycheck to paycheck. It seems as if Murphy looks in our house and say, that's not going to hit them as hard, so I'm going to go down a few doors down and hit them. The people that we were, the people that I was years ago, broke, living paycheck to paycheck. So having this emergency fund in place was super important. It took 3 months, but now we have that in place, which allows us to breathe a lot easier. Now, I don't know if 6 months is your number. That's something you want to talk about within your household and figure out how many months do you want to be able to survive if you lost your income. 3 to 6 months is generally the number that's thrown around and generally accepted as a nice, healthy emergency fund, but that's for you to decide. The second thing we did after becoming debt-free was we took a vacation. And this I highly recommend, because if you're like me and you're trying to get out of debt as fast as possible, it took almost 3 years for us to get that $100,000 paid off, and we had to make a lot of sacrifices, and life didn't make it any easier. We had family deaths during that time where you had to get those last minute plane tickets to get home. We had job relocations and even job changes in that process. So we had a lot of obstacles come up along the way that made a difficult task even harder. So we were ready to relax and take a vacation. So I recommend this. And this wasn't some weekend road trip type vacation. No, this was a 3-week, 5-state, 2-country vacation. When I was originally planning this trip and calculating the cost, my first figure for this vacation was around $10K. And I could have spent that, but I kind of reeled it in a little bit because, let's face it, that's a lot of money to spend on a vacation, even if it's a 3-week deal. So we reeled it in a little bit, but there was no expense spared on this vacation. We stayed at Suites and we ate where we wanted to eat We did all the activities we wanted to do. This was an amazing vacation, and I'm so happy that we took this vacation because this was the summer of 2019, right after becoming debt-free, and we all know what happened in 2020 and is carried on through today. So I'm thankful that we took this trip and was able to let our hair down and really relax and enjoy ourselves and give us that well-deserved pat on the back. And I would highly recommend that you don't skip this after you become debt-free. Celebrate, and celebrate in a major way. Just do it in cash because, again, we don't want to go back into debt, right? The third thing I did after becoming debt-free was I started investing. And not just some investing on the side with some chump change. No, I started investing in a major way. And this is the most important thing of everything I'm going to talk about because this is where life change happens. This is where legacy comes into play. Because we were living a good life. Like, we don't regret the way we lived. We enjoyed our 20s. We went on vacations. We had a great time. And we were doing good. And I started with nothing. I started with a minimum wage job, no money from my parents, no help at all. And I worked my way up to a comfortable lifestyle. But I also was setting myself up to go out the game the same way I came in. Broke, working a minimum wage job, living paycheck to paycheck. And that's because I had no long-term vision. And now being debt-free, having an emergency fund in place, and starting to think about investing and getting that started, now I'm thinking about the future. And so this is why investing becomes so important. It's the only way you can grow your money. And if you want to have some money, you have to grow the money that you receive. And that's investing. Now, a lot of people out there have different numbers on this, on how much to invest and all that. Well, I'll tell you the general numbers that's accepted out there is somewhere between 10 and 20%. Outside of the FIRE community, that's considered enough money to have a decent life. But I'm going to be honest with you, when it comes to investing, this is something you got to sit down with. You got to think about your future. If you're married, you got to sit down with your spouse. Me and my wife, we sat down and really thought it out and thought about what type of life we wanted to have in the future. How much money is it going to cost to provide that life? How much is that going to break down into each and every month? And that allowed us to backtrack and figure out where we are today and what we need to be investing. And for us, that number was 15%. But this is why it's important for everybody to understand their numbers, because how much you invest or how much you need to invest is going to be different for everybody because we all have different hopes and dreams for our future. One person may want to travel once a month, every month, from the time they're 60 until the day they die. Somebody else may want to buy a bunch of land and put a manufactured home on there and go out and hunt and fish on their land. Those two individuals are going to have two totally different requirements as far as income. And when you factor in how old you are, how much money you already have invested, and when you want to retire, you're going to see that how much you need to put into your investment account is going to vary drastically. So this is a place where you don't want to follow some generic formula. You want to get into your numbers and figure out what do you need to be doing so that you can ensure that you're on track for where you want to be. Because the last thing any of us want is to get up to the age where our body's breaking down on us, our ability to earn is decreasing, only to realize that while we thought we had enough, we actually are short by a lot. Now, after I set my investments in place, I took it up a notch and I automated my investments. Because just like taxes is taken out of my paycheck, I wanted my investments to be done automatically. So it's not something I need to worry about every single month. And also, so it's already gone. That way, when I receive my net pay after everything is taken out, I know this is now what I have to live off of. Nothing's going to come up in my life this month that's going to cause me to not invest. Because remember, my numbers are specific. So if I choose not to invest this month or for the next 6 months or next year because I want to do something different, I now understand that that's going to throw off my long-term plan. So automating my investments just made everything easy. Now, speaking of staying on track, that takes me right into number 4. The fourth thing that I set in place was I started saving for other goals, right? You have your investments that you have. That's your long-term savings account, if you will. That's your long-term plan, you're investing. But there are some things that's going to come up that you want to do. You may want to take a vacation on it. You may want to buy a new couch or a bed or whatever the case may be. There's a lot of things that's fighting for your money. And so instead of just letting these things just randomly sneak up on me and then creating an emergency in my life, what we did is sit down and thought about the things that we want to do on the short term, things we want to do within the next 5 years, like buy a new couch, buy a new car. These are things that's going to come up. And so we started saving money for those, and we're putting that money off to the side because, once again, I don't want to touch my emergency fund for something that I could have predicted, and I never want to touch my investing if I don't have to, because if you follow Charlie Munger's rule number 2 on investing, never interrupt compounding unnecessarily. And I have my emergency fund in place to ensure that doesn't happen. And I'm also saving for things that I can see coming, which is another easy thing to do to prevent you from having to touch those investments. Another benefit of this was it allowed us to prioritize our financial life. So not only did we think about and discuss things that we want to spend money on, but we were able to prioritize those things so we know exactly in what order those things will happen. Now, granted, this is life and you can't plan for everything. The cool thing about this is if something jumps up and becomes more important, we can easily just change the list around. But we have money there and we're growing that money so that whenever life happens, these things that we can see coming, like replacing a 10-year-old car, we know we can do it, and we can do it without going into debt. Now, the fifth and final thing that we've done after becoming debt-free was focus on increasing our income. Now, I know what you're saying, or I know what you're thinking. If you're getting out of debt and you want to invest, all this stuff you've been talking about, wouldn't increase your income be like at the top of this list? And to be honest, it was not for us, because I had spent most of my 20s chasing income, trying to find ways to increase my income. And my year-over-year income growth, if we charted it out from 18 to 30, if it was charted out, it would be a stock that you would want to invest in. But when we started focusing on becoming debt-free, we got really focused on controlling what we had and making sure that we were being very conscious and very responsible and make sure every dollar goes as far as it possibly could. Now that we are debt free and we have all these other things in place, we have a plan for our future. Now I'm looking at ways to increase the income. And this is something that I've really been focusing in on this year. And that is because now that I know that I'm locked in and I'll be able to live the life that we have dreamed of, and all I need to do is stay focused, keep investing, and keep working for the next 24 years, and I will get there. And by increasing my income, it's going to allow me to reach that goal, not in 24 years, but even faster. So ultimately, what this does for us is it allows the long-term investing play that we're doing with 15% of our income, it allows that plan to now become the backup plan, because that's locked in, it's automated, and it's just happening. Now, in addition to that, I'm looking at other ways to bring income in the house, which will allow me to invest even more, ultimately making my original retirement plan my backup plan. So my actual plan is to get to retirement, get to that point where my investment portfolio is producing enough income that I can pull off the interest and live my dream life. That's the retirement plan. But see, now by increasing the income, it's allowing me to get to that number even faster. And if all else fails, if I never get another raise, if I just maintain my lifestyle as it is now, I can work for the next 24 years. I'll get to that point where I can live the rest of my days without having to worry about income. But that is the backup plan now. And this year I became a student of ways to increase your income. I've been studying the stock market, cryptocurrency, ride-sharing platforms, the vending business, trucking, and I have some great things, some exciting things that I'll be announcing on this channel in the coming months. And the best part about all of this is that I don't need to do any of this. Of course I want to increase my income, but I get to do it in a thoughtful and methodical way, a way that's going to increase my chances of success. You can't hype me up to lose my money. And if that's something you can get behind, you're in the right place, because I'm going to share with you my financial journey right here on this channel, just like I did in this video, so that we can learn together and we can grow together. So there you have it. Those are the 5 things that I've done since I became debt free. If you want more content like this, if you want to take control of your finances, I created a playlist on how to get out of debt and how to take control of your finances. You can find that right here on the screen. And until next time, I'm Diamond. Peace.